This movie isn't stupid! You're stupid!
Opinions are stupid. I know this because I have them. And on a more serious note, the vast majority of film discourse tends to happen over very petty disagreements with other people's opinions. Sure, that's the center of all discourse, but I don't mean opinions about the content within the film itself, no. I mean you literally have your scrotum stapled to the ceiling if you think the Five Nights at Freddy's movie wasn't a cinematic masterpiece. People have always had trouble tolerating other people's opinions, especially online. It's nothing new, and it's a natural reaction for a lot of people. Hearing negative things about something you enjoyed can be upsetting, and hearing positive things about something you absolutely hate with every fiber of your being can... And it does take a fair bit of maturity to not go completely up in arms whenever someone disagrees with you on something you like or dislike, especially if you are all invested in the world of film criticism. A critic's voice can... I just used Doug Walker as background voice. A critic's voice can hold a lot of power over audiences who just want to be informed about what films are worth their time, and reviews also do a ton of heavy lifting for a movie's reputation and public opinion. And this is where Rotten Tomatoes comes into the picture. Rotten Tomatoes is an American review aggregation website for film. This is a waste of time. You watching this video know about this website or frequented it in the past, and you should also know that this website is regularly at the center of controversy and discourse surrounding basically every mainstream film release. Due to how massively popular the website is, it holds a lot of power in the world of entertainment. And while I do understand many people's frustration with its existence, I also believe a lot of its power is frankly unearned, silly, and by all accounts a result of a ton of misinformation about how the website actually works, leading to massive storms of hypocrisy coming from moviegoers and a ton of artificial value being placed on the site itself. There's a lot about this website that people don't actually understand, and there are reasons for why the site itself is not exactly faultless. I wanted to spend some time today condensing many of those reasons down into a short video so people can actually approach discussions surrounding films and Rotten Tomatoes itself with a bit more nuance and hopefully lead to, okay, this video is not going to change shit, but it'll be very interesting, I promise. This video is sponsored by Storiaverse. Storiaverse is a brand new app for short animated stories, bringing you the next evolution of comics and graphic novels in a new read-watch format for those who love a good story and animations to go along with it. Gone are the days of playing Subway Surfers while trying to read House of Leaves. Storiaverse works with creative writers and animators from all over the globe, making sure every story feels different and original. And it's not just one type of animation, they mix it up with different styles like 2D, 3D, anime, and more depending on the artist. It has a little something for everyone, from action and sci-fi to fantasy and comedy. And all of the stories are exclusive to Storiaverse, so you can't find them anywhere else. Out of all the stories I've seen so far, I'd probably say The End of the West is my favorite for its art style and the blending of 2D and 3D animation, and it also helps that the app has a simple and easy to use layout. It allows you to easily find what story you want to read/watch and just jump into it. Also, I know most of you are Zoomers, so the read-watch format will probably help with your attention span. The app is available for download on the App Store and Google Play for free, and if you want to stay up to date, then give them a follow at Storiaverse on social media for upcoming trailers and behind-the-scenes content. Thank you to Storiaverse for sponsoring today's video. Now let's get back to business. To this day, I am still blown away at the number of people who misconstrue how Rotten Tomatoes works as a website. The number of times I see the phrase Rotten Tomatoes critics thrown around is staggering, and seeing people treat the percentage as a solid film score, as if 90% stands for a 9 out of 10 or 50% stands for a 5 out of 10, is a little concerning. So let me just explain how Rotten Tomatoes works. Rotten Tomatoes is not a reviewing website. It doesn't host reviews written by people who work at Rotten Tomatoes, like IGN, Polygon, GameSpot, or The Guardian does, because that's not what its purpose is. Rotten Tomatoes is a review aggregation website. It grabs hundreds of reviews across the internet written by critics on their personal blogs or from major news publications and calculates a percentage based on how many people enjoyed the movie. Looking at this purely on the surface, nothing about how the website actually works suggests that these percentages should hold nearly as much value as people say they do. It is just a percentage that shows how many critics like something. Just a heads up, if you have any questions, then put your hands down because there are problems with the website itself that will be addressed in the next section. I just want to explain how the way RT functions has been heavily misconstrued and why people should stop treating the percentage like a solid film score. A 90% score may look impressive to you, but that could mean most critics just gave the film a 7 or a 6 out of 10. If a movie is rated rotten but still has a rating over 50%, then that still means over half the people that saw the film said it was good. I think the reason the percentage gets circle jerked so much is a combination of two things. Seeing a lot of people be for or against the movie can have an impact on its reputation, and big numbers. A lot of the weight behind the percentage purely comes down to audience bias, which we'll get to soon. So I want to quickly go on a related tangent about the actual power that critics hold. Anyone can call themselves a critic. I personally prefer the term dipshit with shower thoughts, but whatever floats your boat, and start praising or dunking on movies left and right. And audiences are free to read the reviews of said critics and decide whether or not they want to go see a movie. Because, like, you're free to do that. You can do that. It doesn't make it particularly efficient though. Obviously you should go into things with an open mind unless it's a Jurassic Park sequel, and not pay what critics think too much mind, because at the end of the day they're only a suggestion that can also be entertaining and engaging in their own right if they do their job correctly, but they're still a suggestion. And if you do want to take a suggestion before you head into a film you're interested in seeing, here's some valuable advice. Don't just look for whether or not a film is considered good or bad by a majority of critics. Find individual critics that you enjoy listening to who also share similar thoughts and tastes as you. If a critic you personally trust really enjoys a movie, then that's a proper reason to go into it expecting a good time. If they dislike a movie, then you can go into it with that in mind. And if you just so happen to disagree with what they say when you see either of those films, then that's totally fine and only further builds your taste in movies. Doesn't mean you can no longer trust that critic if you still agree with them most of the time either. That's the joy of opinions and how the power of a critic shouldn't affect how you approach movies. These Rotten Tomatoes symbols I put in my thumbnails, I only put them there because they look neat. It's been said a lot, but a critic's power comes from the consistency of their voice. If they like or dislike a film, you should be able to gauge what about it they liked or disliked based on the standards they have shown in the past. And whether you put your trust in a critic is up to you, but it doesn't mean you're gonna always see eye to eye with them. In this instance, Rotten Tomatoes does kind of help by showing a large number of critics from different publications, separating their reviews into positive and negative categories, and giving you direct links to their reviews if you wish to read them and get a good understanding of what their standards are. But I know this is not how most people approach film criticism, and especially not RT. I'm gonna call it RT from now on because I'm actually gonna have an aneurysm if I say this fast enough. The vast majority of people are just gonna see a big number on the percentage to determine if a film is worth their time, and probably call it bad despite not having seen it if they feel like being a dick or something, and this is not helped by the existence of the tomato meter itself. While the previous section was mainly about how Rotten Tomatoes actually works and why people should stop treating it like a reviewing site, this section will be entirely about Rotten Tomatoes' faults. This won't be nearly as long as the last section though. Starting with the tomato meter. The issue at hand is very simple to identify. Seeing a large or a low number with a big yes or no symbol next to them is a surefire way to stop people from forming their own thoughts. While it's easy to immediately conclude that a film with a low percentage means that most critics probably didn't like it, the addition of the Rotten Tomatoes symbols is like a f***ing psychic attack. I don't play Pokemon, I hope I got that right. And it can be argued that this really oversimplifies the process of looking at reviews by devaluing all of the content within the review itself that could provide further insight into why a film worked or didn't work for that specific critic, and just turning it into a basic yes or no answer to the question of should I watch this. Honestly, there's not a whole lot to say here, not a whole lot you can really fix without just removing the symbols entirely, which would just completely defeat the point of the whole website. This is only really an issue because of people not getting how the website works and putting too much stake into the scoring system, but it is still an issue nonetheless. The bigger issue is how the tomato meter can be very easily manipulated and gamed by people in Hollywood. This isn't a conspiracy moment saying that every Disney film is bought off or not. Hell, have you seen Wish's tomato meter? Jesus Christ. But see, it's not just audiences that are obsessed with the tomato meter, it's also pretty much every studio in Hollywood. While Rotten Tomatoes began with an innocent enough premise of showing how many critics like a film, its original purpose has become so diluted and misconstrued in recent years that regardless of whatever you say to people, and no matter how much you explain what the website's actual function is, people will always see the Rotten Tomatoes score as a symbol of quality. Once people in Hollywood realized that a lot of people went to see movies based on the Rotten Tomatoes score, even though the website isn't meant to completely override your ability to see movies, it became clear just how much power these stupid symbols held, and many major Hollywood releases wear these certified fresh stickers like a badge of honor, and this also isn't helped by some studios being able to directly influence the score of upcoming releases. In an article from Vulture by Lane Brown last year, they go into detail about the release of the movie Ophelia in 2018, and how the PR firm, Bunker 15, went out of their way to not only recruit obscure self-published critics who would likely be more favorable to the movie, but also offered these critics around as low as $50 to write up a positive review. Then from around October 2018 to January 2019, 8 new reviews were added to the website, and 7 of them were paid off to write something positive. It was only one of them that wrote a negative review and blew the lid on the whole operation, and this was only done so that they could just barely flip the tomato meter for Ophelia from rotten to fresh. There's also the example of Justice League in 2017 having its tomato meter be delayed even after critics had been reviewing the film until the day before it released, with many arguing that this was a deliberate move given Warner Brothers was distributing Justice League and also has partial ownership over Rotten Tomatoes itself. There's a bunch of other examples of the tomato meter being super easy to manipulate, but these were the 2 most prominent examples I wanted to mention. Even though it's rare for paid reviews to have such an impact that they can massively shake up a film's tomato meter, believe it or not, it is possible for people to have different opinions about being in Disney's pocket, guys. The fact this can happen at all is a massive problem, and a big reason why people shouldn't put too much stake into Rotten Tomatoes as a whole. The website has its fair share of problems, but it cannot be said enough how a lot of them are just the result of misinformation about how the site functions. And when people put too much stake into the tomato meter and a film's percentage, they can say and do some really stupid shit. This is the point I've been looking forward to talking about the most, and to be honest, if you've seen my videos on the Mario movie and the FNAF movie discourse, this could sound like I'm repeating myself a bit, but trust me, this is relevant and needs to be said. A lot of you guys are dumb f***ing hypocrites. A lot of people are attached to the tomato meter and treat it as gospel, but at the same time, they really do not like it when critics are not perfectly aligned with what they think. You can see this pretty much under any post on Twitter or Reddit or anywhere online that announces a film is fresh or rotten on Rotten Tomatoes. Here is how all of this goes down every single time. As you can see, dear viewer, I have betrayed you as the soy jet. The movie releases and everyone loves it. Critics and audiences alike are glazing the shit out of it, and this guy, we'll call him Paul, is feeling super validated that a movie they were excited for is universally acclaimed. Next example. A movie releases, and while the critics mostly love it, audiences are mostly split or completely against it. Paul was looking forward to this movie, and because they are completely invested in Rotten Tomatoes, they declare the critics are right about this out of pure copium despite having not seen the movie yet. Next example. Paul's excited for the next movie, and whoa, the critics hate it. Here comes Roger Ebert with the steel chair. Wait, that guy's dead, but audiences seem to really like the movie and are in direct opposition to the critics. Paul, again not having seen the movie and huffing pure copium, aligns himself with the audience and says that the critics don't know what they're talking about. This is the same man who would have given Roger Ebert's Ghost the greatest head in the universe if he liked the movie. And then the final example, Paul is excited for a movie and everyone hates it. It is panned by critics and audiences across the board, and it's at this point where Paul, holding back genuine tears, announces to the world that no one's thoughts actually matter and he's going to see the movie anyway to form his own opinion, which he should have done from the start anyway. You might think I'm joking, but this happens every week whenever a movie's tomato meter is revealed. People are so invested in being right about something before they've even seen it, that they will not even consider going in to watch it and form their own opinions until literally everyone is in agreement that the movie sucks. And there's an inverse problem to this as well for people who are day one haters of a movie before it releases. If everyone likes the movie, then they're paid off shills. If only the critics like it, then the audience is right. If the audience likes it and the critics are no longer paid shills, they're correct. And if everyone hates it, then they act like they knew this was the case the entire time. And it's like, no, you are not the Messiah, you are a very naughty boy. This is real. This happens every week. Because people are obsessed over big numbers and too brightly colored symbols. It is absolute madness. A misunderstanding of Rotten Tomatoes and tying a film's worth to it has absolutely fried people's brains to the point where they literally just don't consider seeing a film to get their own unbiased thoughts on it unless they are literally out of options to grift over. Film criticism is dead. Media literacy is at an all-time low. I need to chill and emphasize that if you use Rotten Tomatoes to make safe picks about what movies you want to see, because after all, not everyone has all the time in the world to see what they want and just want to narrow it down to having quality experiences they can enjoy, that's fine. We all have lives. We're all very busy. I think I'm busy. But it's when you get super involved in the discourse and align your identity with a percentage and a PNG of a fucking plant to the point where you grift endlessly out of pure copium that my brain hurts. Look, at the end of the day, Rotten Tomatoes is inherently flawed because of a mishmash of reasons that muddy its true intent, and audiences latching onto it for films has given Hollywood an excuse to game the system. It's all artificial value that people only acknowledge when there's nothing left to grift over, and then they repeat the same cycle the moment another movie releases that they're excited for. That's all I've got for today. As per usual, if I got anything wrong, it was for a bit. Play Yakuza. Goodbye.